Let's get that Roomba going, Lachlan, and talk about Noah Baumbach's White Noise. Jack Gladley, professor of Hitler studies at the College on the Hill, husband of Babette, a father to 4 children / stepchildren, is torn asunder by a chemical spill from a rail car that releases an airborne toxic event, forcing Jack to confront his biggest fear, his own mortality. So that's White Noise from Noah Baumbach, coming in at a runtime of 136 minutes. I had a high budget of $100 million and is a Netflix production and the novel adaptation of Don DeLillo's novel of the same name. It premiered earlier in 2022 in Venice and has been received in a quite mixed way. I feel like this movie is hard to recommend, and if you're on the verge of like, I like Marriage Story, should I go check out White Noise? I think those two things shouldn't correlate. It's like if you've been someone who earlier was like Copenhagen Cowboy, that sounds interesting, I might give that a watch. Then White Noise is totally for you. It's a quite weird film, and you can see that reflected in the ratings. On Letterboxd, it's a 3.1. On IMDb, a 5.7. And even on Metacritic, it's a 66. So it's not even one of those where the audiences are not connecting with it too much. It's also the critics who are quite split on it, because we do see some pretty favorable ratings, but then also ones that just completely trash it. So Lachlan, where do you land on White Noise?
I'm very confused about White Noise because it just screams like everything I want with a film.
Right.
It's weird, it's humor, sometimes lands. The visual style that they've decided to go with for this film is very stunning, very picturesque. I think that the cinematography is wicked, but also the production design is 11 out of 10.
Off the walls.
11
yes.
out of 10. I think also the costume design is 11 out of 10. I think that the set design is 11 out of 10. I think that everything you see on screen is wicked. Like, it's really awesome visually when you're watching this film. However, there is so many, I guess, odd, peculiar issues with this film, mainly stemming from the writing / dialogues and story. I think that this book was known as it's impossible to essentially adapt to screen. I think that's one of the things about this novel that I haven't read this novel myself, but I have heard that it is a hard adaptation to do. So whatever
I've read
Don DeLillo was, you've read it, and
I've read
thoughts?
Well, I didn't read it. I listened to the audiobook. So
You fucking
I don't know if
liar.
that counts as
You
reading.
make fun of me for not reading, but you don't read either. You just listen.
Well, I couldn't get the book in time, and I did find it on Audible, and then on my train ride to Venice, I ended up listening to most of it, and then I finished it yesterday again to catch me up to speed, because I did rewatch it this time. Sometimes these like Venice films don't get the rewatch treatment, but White Noise did actually get it. But I'd agree, because a lot of it, I mean, that's an issue with a lot of novel adaptations, though, that a lot of it is just told from the inside of the head of like the lead, and they're just vocalizing a lot of it. And I think how Baumbach goes about it, I feel like the script is also like, I wouldn't say the script is its downfall. I did read the screenplay because it's also up for, I guess, some awards contention, and I like it a lot, the way that it's written. But it's just that the dialogue is very much, it's not I wouldn't say stagey, I don't know how to put it. It's very just Baumbachian. That's what he does.
Well,
I've seen a bunch of his films, and there's a lot of dialogue usually, and I don't like that as much as well.
First things first, can you send me the screenplay? Because obviously I finished
Yes.
reading Banshees, and that was wicked. So I will definitely give this one a read, because I do agree. I think Noah Baumbach is an excellent screenwriter, and I think his screenplays are good. For me, it's not so much like the biggest downfall is how it's put together, the story, because it definitely halfway through, without trying to spoil anything, halfway through the film, it kind of changes into what it's going to be. It kind of seems like it's going down one avenue and then switches over to something else. Probably, I guess that might happen in the book.
Yeah. I mean, this is not a spoiler, but I guess the chemical spill is more of like an inciting incident. We can talk about this, I guess, a bit more in spoilers, but I feel like this film is also one that you can talk a whole bunch about without actually spoiling stuff, because there
Mm,
is that much like on the technical side of it as well. But yeah, I mean, it is in it. When I first got to it, there's like I'd say even another turn later in the story that I found quite came out of nowhere for me. But now, having seen it a second time, it kind of flows a bit better, in my
sure.
opinion. But that part was kind of just out of nowhere in the book for me. But the airborne toxic event is just a catalyzer of the biggest overarching theme, which white noise is about death. I don't know what white noise is referring to. I don't know if it is about them, because they mentioned like what if after like at death it is just sound at the end of it. You don't hear anything but sound. Um,
Mm.
which would be white noise, right? So I don't know. It's just it has a lot of themes in it that I didn't really care to think about too much. Other
Read
than I guess
into?
the most
Sure.
obvious, yeah. Other than the most obvious one of death, like I feel like the maybe we can talk a bit more about spoilers. So I'll give a spoiler warning right now. I'd say if you like Noah Baumbach's writing, and the style that his characters talk, you'll have quite a good time with white noise, and
I also
go give
think
it a try.
this might be a bit of a stretch, but if you've watched Adam Driver's Annette, it's
Oh yeah,
very different in what Annette's trying to say, but it
yeah,
has a lot of similar, I guess, theatrical moments in it.
and
Uh,
comedy as
and and
well. I feel
and to
like,
get back
yeah,
onto what you said about the staging, and I guess how it feels like it's a theatrical play with how characters move around and how they vocalize and just sort of monologue for a good 30
yeah,
seconds. And there's an excellent scene between Adam Driver and Don Cheadle where they are monologuing together, and I have to
yeah,
admit that is the one of my biggest highlights of the film, because it was structurally like everything just came together, and it was like, why is this part just so good and everything else just seems to be, it's not fully it's not fully, I guess, adapting what the book is trying to be and what message it's trying to bring across. Because I feel like then throughout the rest of the film, it's sort of just a mishmash of genres and ideas.
yeah,
And I mean, we can get into it with spoilers because
yeah.
maybe we should.
I mean,
But for
yeah.
me, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
The novel thing is also, I feel like it's a bit more morbid. It's a bit more cynical that this ends up being, because I feel like that there's a certain warmth that still comes through in this, even if it's like the outlook is, well, there's an airborne toxic event that will all kill us. But the overarching thing is like, well, that doesn't change a thing because we are all going to die regardless. And I think that's like the point that it kind of makes through its characters and their choices, that they make choices that aren't good for themselves, or that maybe, I don't know, even threaten their health. But it ultimately doesn't matter because the end point is still the same. And I found the novel to be a bit more dreadful in that sort of way.
Sure.
But let's get into spoilers, actually. And maybe we can. So I guess Don Cheadle, and that lecture, one v one, or maybe even playing off of each other. I found that dynamic, like Don Cheadle was kind of an underdog hero for me in this. He was so funny whenever he was on screen. He didn't miss. He was very pleasant to see on screen. What are you
He
doing?
absolutely. Oh, cat.
Yeah, they just go. They're just going crazy. They're like, I don't know what they saw, but anyways.
Yeah, no, Don Cheadle was wicked. He just pops up randomly throughout, and you kind of just like
Yeah,
enjoying every single moment of it. How he seems to kind of like
have
really
the hots
like
for Babette
Babette,
as
and
well.
just likes to
Yes.
keep reminding Jack how hot Babette is. And I'm just like, what is going on with Don? Is Cheadle trying to fuck Babette? I think that's what's going on here.
Yeah.
So, uh, okay. As much as I keep shitting on like the story and everything. I like this film enough because I like these theatrical films. I absolutely adored Annette when it comes out, and
Mhm.
I'm massively huge fan of Wes Anderson, who is very known for staging his films in a very theatrical kind of way, and a very, I guess, very
Mhm.
2D way. Where White Noise
Yeah.
doesn't do that to the full extent. It's definitely still a film, but the monologuing from some of these characters are quite crazy. So, unfortunately, I haven't done a second viewing like you, Ewan.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I might, but at the same time,
Hmm.
when I watched this, I thought it was going to be one of these films where I just go, I'm never going to watch this again. It's a
Yeah.
one time movie, and I'm never going to watch it again. But
Mhm.
I feel like going back will give me a lot more insight, especially if I do read the screenplay as well through its entirety. Reading what they actually say might also give this extra layer of depth to it, because I feel like
Yeah.
there's a lot thrown at you in this film, and a lot of it can go missing somewhere. So, I guess to start off with, the first, where should we start for this first act of this film? Like from the moment they get to the the dinner scene where they're about to leave, or should we do it all the way till they get to like the camp? Because there's a lot
Um,
that goes on in this first
there,
act.
there's a lot that goes on, and it happens quite like the airborne toxic event. I think is like 30 minutes into the film,
Yeah.
and I don't know when they end up at the camp because they do go back to that dinner. I feel like what is notable here is that like it has those screenplay setups of like them together in bed acknowledging that neither of them wants the other person to die first, and
Mhm.
like there's a through line for that, and it's definitely one that there's gonna be video essays on, like, what white noise says about death, what white noise says about your own mortality, or the
Yeah.
selfishness of romantic, long-term relationships where out of your own selfish need, you don't want to be the first one to be left alone, or like, no, the first one to leave the other person alone. Whatever. There's a lot of that in there, and then I think it abandons that a bit more, and then it comes back around once it gets relevant again.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know because I struggled coming up with notes to talk about with you on this because I feel like it's such an experience that it's hard to pinpoint these moments down story wise of what we should talk about. But I don't know, maybe you got a better idea.
Okay, so I mean, we can just start off with this entire opening, I guess, act up until the point where
Yeah,
we can kind of talk about where Adam Driver's character Jack learns that this airborne toxic event, that person punches it into the computer, like, you're gonna die. I feel like that's a good like stopping
I
point,
was
because that's kind of where the
yeah,
film changes, right?
yeah.
Um, and there's a lot of stuff that the film throws at you. So for me, when I was watching this, I was like, "Oh shit! Is there going to be some sort of sci-fi aspect to this? Is there
Hmm.
going to be some sort of alien invasion aspect to this?" And that's where I thought
Yeah,
the white noise kind of comes into play.
right.
And then for me, the I guess the film's first act isn't really much about death, but more about uh too much information and not knowing enough information and blowing
Yeah,
things out of proportion, because
yeah,
immediately in like the span of 2 seconds it goes from like an oil spill to a fucking toxic airborne event, which is
yeah.
like major repercussions. People are wearing masks. Like the transition between it's just an oil spill, Jack has no care, to all the kids running around, his son
Happens very
Heinrich,
fast, yeah.
he's just a know-it-all and just starts to like blaster all of these things that just evolve. So it evolves extremely quickly from the moment of
Yeah.
spill all the way up until that dinner scene, where they discuss what the actual event is. So it evolves very quickly, and at first I'm thinking it's an alien film. Okay, because I have no understanding of what the novel is. It's an alien film. There's going to be some sort of like creatures, and then you have that weird old guy who's like handing him the bunny a bit
Yeah.
afterwards, and there's that character. I'm like, oh, okay, it's kind of like in the in Nope, where you have the old lady shot where you think, oh, it's an
Mhm.
alien kind of thing. So I was thinking that's
Yeah.
what that avenue, we're going down that avenue.
Yeah.
We don't, and that's where it kind of left hooks, and it's quite jarring. It's very jarring if you're gonna go, oh, this is where we're going into. It doesn't really drop the death themes until quite late into that final
Yeah,
act, and you
exactly, yeah.
kind of left hooks, and you kind of have to reset because the film then changes. It's then a story about uh, Jack and Babette. It's not a story
Mhm.
about this toxic airborne event, this massive event that happens to this community. It's a story about these two and their relationship, which isn't to be completely unexpected. It is a fucking Noah Baumbach film, and he made Marriage Story, a very pretentious script
Yeah.
about his own life. So you kind of had to see this one coming.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, you're totally right about that, that, like, it's also that the toxic event I thought was gonna be the whole rest of the film, and it would go maybe into a bigger direction, but it's like it just ends, and then we're left with that after that scene of, like, punching in the numbers. I That was my favorite scene of the movie, to be honest. I found it really funny. Yeah, basically, hey, we'll know more in 15 years, once we figured it out. When you're still alive by then I guess, we figure out if you can survive. Something like that. Uh, and, then I guess for me, it makes the shift back to mortality there quite quickly, and the
Mm.
airborne toxic event is not really that important anymore. And like you said, it's about that relationship again. And then I don't know if I because I really didn't like that the guy who gives the bunny, right, is also the guy that they end up shooting. I think that is the same person.
And it's
Um
also, I guess, the guy who was in the house on that very, very well done horror scene where Jack's asleep and dreaming. Like, that was somehow very well done. It's like
yeah,
those little moments are very well done, but the overall story is just a bit all over the place. But
exactly. Yeah.
that was probably one of the most intense, scary scenes of, I guess, 2022 as a whole. Even though we're talking about this in 2023, it's technically a 2022 movie. But like that
Yeah.
was like the whole of the feeling you get in Nope with that uneasy feeling in that scene. So that's the only other time
Yeah.
in the whole of 2022 where I was uncomfortable in a scene, and that was one of them.
I agree. I feel like that's probably where the comments came from about this being unadaptable, because the novel does go down all of these, like, tangents, and it can
Mm,
do that, and it's not as jarring as as if you'd have to visually buy into it and just put it on screen. I feel like it's a bit harder to do.
yeah.
But yeah. What did you think about Dyla, the pill addiction and those experiments, and then whole hiding and lying from
Well, then again,
Babette?
it's like it goes down this completely other avenue that the first almost hour of the film is
Yeah.
talking and suggesting about. I thought the Dyla thing, because obviously it's brought up kind of early that she's on a pill, but they don't really lean into it until later on. Um,
Yeah.
was kind of interesting. I guess obviously there needed to be some sort of conflict between Jack and Babette that was easy enough to kind of understand. They seem to have this very open relationship, so they couldn't really have some sort of. They just couldn't like it's meant to. It should have been. It's something physical essentially. There's
Ah,
nothing
right.
that like they're an open book between each other, so it had to be something physical
Yeah.
between the
Right.
two. That was the, I guess, the antagonizing event between them.
Yeah.
Obviously, this Dialard thing is one of them. It's a secret that she kept from Jack. And then
Mhm.
it reveals to be even more of a secret of how she keeps getting this pill. If I'm totally honest, the last half of the film lost me. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. That's how I
I think
felt
it's
in when I first watched it as well. I really did feel that, and I don't know what it is. I feel like knowing where a movie ends up makes it easier to accept if you don't like it. And at the first time, you go in with your expectations or where you think the story should end up, or like where you want it to end up. and yeah, it's a bit easier to, I guess, adjust to that. But I also really didn't like that whole ending bit, the conflict between them. It didn't really work for me.
I would say the moment that Jack goes to the doctor to get his checkup and then sort of calls the doctor to find out what this pill is. From there, I would say that's where the film lost me because it pretty much just goes
Yeah.
into this sort of uh, Jack versus Babette moment, and then the sort of breakup relationship. The kids are like, "Are you guys separating? Because you're sleeping on the pull-out couch," and
Mm,
obviously, at the same time, to build more sort of tension between everything, Jack's got this massive Hitler event coming up. And I guess that's a thing that we didn't
yeah.
really talk about a bit earlier, that he's a Hitler youth
Yeah.
study professor, which is sort of one of the most random professions, or at least fields of study that you could possibly think of.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, like this last half of this film, like that also then doesn't become a thing. Like the whole him
Mm,
being a Hitler youth study professor was all in the first part, and then you don't really get much of it up until this sort of last little Hitler like event where they have
yeah.
all these professionals come around. He's doing a big old speech. Like there's
But
not a lot of that
he
in the
wants
last
to leave
half.
as soon as possible, right? It's not
Yeah,
like because he has
and
a gun and he wants to go. It's more of a
yeah,
backdrop then.
it's just this like really jarring. This is the midway point. We're switching pace. We're completely something
Yeah.
else now. We're not anything to do with the first half of the film, except for those couple scenes, and we're just going to reference a couple things there. It's a very tonal change of pace. It's just become a
Mhm.
drama instead of this sort of sci-fi, big event. It's sort of like,
Mhm.
it was the start of Independence Day, and now it's sort of Marriage Story, right? That's the
Right.
first half.
Yeah.
First half is
Yeah.
Independence Day at the start before the big explosion, and now it's Marriage Story, the second half of the film. And even though I really enjoyed I guess the ending itself, in the sense that especially when they go to the nuns in
Mhm.
the hospital,
Yeah.
I thought that scene where they're like Jack, the Jack going to this guy, shooting him. I didn't really have anything attached to it. Really, I didn't really care. But when Babette shows up and they're dragging the body to the car, he's still alive. They're all talking. They have this kind of like joke where you shot yourself. That, and I thought that was quite funny. It seems to kind of
Mhm.
make itself. It all of a sudden gets better. I don't know what it is. It's from Jack calling the doctor to talk about dialer till Jack shooting the actual dude who gives the dialer out. That whole part there is just a mess to me, and I didn't really
Yeah.
enjoy any of it. And it was a mess enough for me not to like the film, because I think that's the
Mm.
messiest point. That there,
Yeah.
where it's a massive tonal shift. But that last little end moment was weird enough, where it's like these nuns who don't actually believe in God are making these sort of references about death. And I thought that was some interesting stuff as well, about the whole
Mhm.
death thing that they're trying to talk about. But no, yeah, I feel like that moment there, now we're breaking it down, I'm thinking about it a bit more, that's probably the moment that
The
I just
breaking point
disliked the
for
most.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed the monologuing that the nun does, that doesn't believe, that believes for the others, or it needs to be like appearing to be believing, otherwise the world would fall apart. I like that sentiment. It's yeah, one that resonates, and I mean, I agree. I didn't really like that part of the story too much, and I also gotta say, I don't like the stereotype of the smart. I think he's 14 years old, like Heinrich, their son, is
Huh.
like really annoying to me. I get what he's going for. Directors who write this really dialogue heavy these scripts like that, they do oftentimes fall victim to having a narrating person, an exposition person that's not like all in your face, but he's more in the background and he talks really quickly, and you don't even need to take him too seriously because he's still kind of goofy. He's not like a serious person, although he is, if
I
that
was
makes
hoping
sense.
for him to be wrong. That was what I
Right.
was hoping for him. I was hoping that they would do
Yeah.
a whole, like, he's a bit of a know-it-all, And then
Yeah.
he's completely wrong.
I mean, the
And just
character, yeah.
because the first half of
Sorry.
this film for me is about misinformation. And I thought, oh,
Right.
okay, he's just blabbering about random shit that he has. He's 14. How the hell did he know all about this? And I get that he's
Yeah.
the son of this very smart dude. Um, and Babette as well is also really well known in the community to be quite confident and helping out people. And at the same time, so is Jack as well. So he's this
Yeah.
son of this very smart and confident parents. So he should also be smart and confident. But I wanted him to be completely wrong because he's a bit of a fucking know-it-all.
It has a lot of things that don't have a narrative like through line. Like, I don't think that it is important that it's their fourth marriage and all of the children are from different partners other than the youngest one who's theirs, and they have four children, their fourth marriage, right? And then like some of them is like Jack's and the other one's Babette's. And I don't
Gets a bit
even know
confusing.
who's who. Like the oldest daughter, who's the one who picks up on Dyla the most. I don't even know if it's Jack's or Babette's daughter, if I'm being
It's
honest.
Babette's.
It's Babette's?
That's the only
Okay.
one that I
So,
know because she's the only one that refers to Jack as Jack and Babette as mum, which makes sense. But the rest of them are kind of just like mum and dad, and it's just like all very confusing.
yeah, it is very confusing. And I mean, I would have liked, okay, there's this scene where Jack and Babette are walking, and it's right after the first time they've gone to the supermarket, I think. And they talk about, well, she says, my life is either or. Either I chew regular gum or I chew sugarless gum. Either I chew gum or I smoke. Either I smoke or I gain weight. Either I gain weight or I run up the stadium steps. And Jack says, sounds like a boring life. And she tears up and says, I hope it lasts forever. That's really funny writing. It's not like even that dramatic in the scene. It's kind of funny, and it cuts away pretty quickly. And I would have loved to explore that part of it more. Like the mortality thing, be a bit more of a center point of them really constantly talking, thinking, breathing out everything that has to do with death, having an obsession with it, the dependency on these two things, like where you have being alive and all the struggles that it entails, like that it's too much, that you don't want it. But then also, well, I hope the struggle goes on forever. And the
Mm.
dichotomy of those two things together, I feel like are really hard to put on screen. But doing something this crazy with a story that's all jumbled together at times, why not go more into that direction? And
Yeah.
like, I guess that's not the source material, but I found that like aspect of it that was like, ooh, do we get more of that? And it's nope. He shot a guy because he was jealous. So
That's all it is. Jealousy.
that's that's all it is. Yeah. My other favorite line is Elvis is my Hitler.
Yeah. I was really enjoying the
Really
Elvis and Hitler
Boomerang.
comparisons. They were quite funny.
Yeah, the standoff lecturing thing was one of the highlights as well. I don't think we have much else to say about the story overall. We've gone into it quite extensively. Now
Mm.
you did mention the production design. Maybe now in spoilers you can actually say specifically what you liked about it. Like, it's obviously a very colorful film. Was that like
Mm.
something that you enjoyed quite a bit?
Oh, as I said right at the start, I absolutely loved everything that was on screen visually. Like it was
Right.
just a, a a fever dream of sort of I guess I don't know what era to call it of America because it's obviously a it feels like that turning point of consumerism in America where everyone's got a lot of stuff and they're all just learning their place in the world. So it's kind of like that, 50s era, sort of
Yeah.
60s era America where there's like this ultimate threat of death, this Cold War era. The Cold War is a
Yeah.
little bit later on, I'm pretty sure. I'm not the best with history,
No,
I'm
no,
afraid.
that's
But
already
um,
it
so
goes on for quite some time.
that's like the moment in time that we're in. It's like this very
Yeah.
vibrant life because there's this ever like looming big nuclear A bomb that's about to go off. And it's one of
Yeah.
the biggest things that I love about this film is just the visual style of it and the I guess when it was set because uh obviously I thought this film was going to be about some massive, big, toxic airborne event
Yeah.
as it is. And it ends up being something completely different, but in the same way about the same thing, this fear of death. So,
Mhm.
changing pace halfway through isn't totally left hook out of nowhere, but it's still sort of a complete change of pace and direction that they're kind of, I guess, focusing on. That was the main thing that they were doing. So I
Yeah.
um I love the visual style because it's like, I guess, perfect for what it's trying to talk about. Um and yeah, I hope that it does get some sort of Oscar nod for production design,
Mhm.
because I think it's wicked. I think the costumes are awesome. I think the production's design is awesome. I'm even
Yeah.
considering maybe cinematography as well because I think that
Yeah.
it's very pretty as a film. I saw on Reddit there was a comparison to a picture that was done where the camera pulls up. I think it's the last shot right at the end, or it might be one of the
Mhm.
shots in the start where it's the supermarket and it's kind of like a symmetrical shot. It's got all the rows.
Yeah.
It's based off of a photograph that a photographer did way back. I feel like I should know what this is before I talk about it, so I don't seem like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, I feel like that ending scene is one that was, like, prominently featured in the trailer, and then I was surprised that it's, like, basically just a New Body Roomba music video, the end of
Yeah.
it. Unfortunately, I think that one didn't get, shortlisted, for the Oscars, if I remember that correctly,
No?
but,
Bugger.
no.
What
Well,
a
it was
shame.
yeah, it was on the long list, but it didn't get shortlisted. I think some other films went over it. I don't know if I'll put up the actual shortlist right now, but I'm not entirely sure. But I'm pretty sure even if it's in there, it's not one of the ones that is the front runner, or like even a runner to win award or even go up for the nominations. Because this year we have like
Mm,
Rihanna, Lady Gaga, and Natu Natu, competing basically for the main prize there. But yeah, I'd agree. I could also kind of maybe see like an adapted screenplay nomination as well, but just because I think that category is a bit weaker this year, but probably a
yeah.
bunch of films that will um go over that, I guess that would like be considered first. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Other than I mean, if you find that picture or the reference there, then let us know, and I might be able to pull it up on screen. But if not, Lachlan, where do you arrive at as a rating for White Noise?
I gave it a 3 out of 5. 3
Right.
out of
Okay.
5.
Very slick here. I mean, I am still at the same rating that I gave it on my first watch. It's still 4 out of 5 for me. I really had a good time with it. I feel like something that we didn't really
Okay.
touch on too much. The comedy for me was like more of an 85-15. Made me chuckle a bunch of times. So really funny, weird movie. All right, Lachlan, that is it for White Noise, but you have a double feature pick, your pick of the week alongside White Noise.
Oh, baby. I've got a great one this week. Uh,
Yes.
White noise. There's many ways you can adapt this sort of phrase.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe the way that a black man can make a white voice is white noise on the phone, which is why I've picked another Adam Driver film, Black
Mhm.
Klansman. Absolutely phenomenal film. Had a great time watching this many years back. And if you're looking for an Adam Driver double feature, I think this is the one where
Mhm.
you watch a bunch of white noise of Adam Driver being a father to a big family and then a pretend racist. I don't know where I'm going with this sentence. I'm going to
Yeah,
finish it off by saying you should watch Black Klansman. It's excellent.
it is excellent. One of the like best Spike Lee films in my opinion. He has a bunch of bangers there. I also have Adam Driver in my pick. Surprisingly, he's not the lead in it though, but Greta Gerwig is in Noah Baumbach's other film from 2012, Frances Ha. It's my, I think, second favorite Noah Baumbach film, apart from Marriage Story. So give that a
Mm.
try if you haven't already.